I want to read a book called A Few Beautiful Minutes, Experiencing a Solar Eclipse, written by Kate Allen Fox and illustrated by Koa Lei. And there's a phrase that gets repeated during the book, and I would like you to repeat it with me. So when I do this, will you all join me in saying, for a few beautiful minutes? Let's try it. For a few beautiful minutes. Beautiful. Here we go. Under a broad blue sky from coast to coast, we gather for a rare illusion, a total solar eclipse, when the sun vanishes into thin air for a few beautiful minutes. In the endless expanse of space, the universe prepares for a show, one the sun and moon have given us since the dawn of time. They find their places as the performance begins. The sun, forever the star, beams vast and vibrant, her stage unchanged. But the moon has already begun gliding, sliding, slipping into the spotlight to steal the sun's glory for a few beautiful minutes. Little by little, she hides the sun. Our eyes alone can't see the change. The sun, still too bright, can burn them for life. So we look through our sun viewers and see the glowing giant seems shrunken, her circle chipped into a crescent. In the shadows of trees, slivers of light mirror the sun's shifting silhouette. The moon moves farther and farther in front of the sun, a small sphere striving to overshadow a giant for a few beautiful minutes. Moment by moment, for an hour or more, the stage transforms. The sun grows slimmer, the sky dimmer. A midday twilight takes shape. The world grows darker than light as eerie orange hues hug the horizon. Above us, the sky becomes dark as the deep sea. Stars shining brighter than ever twinkle in that darkness. Birds roost for the night as crickets and bats wake up. Temperatures plummet as the chill of night nips at our ears. In the cold, in the dark, in anticipation, we wait for those few beautiful minutes. The last rays of light fade away and the moment arrives. The corona, the sun's atmosphere or crown, now shimmers round the moon, the unlikely queen of the solar system. The corona's lightning-like tentacles grasp at space. Their glow dances in our eyes, all of us aware of our own tininess, all captivated and connected for those tiny, precious minutes. In the crowd is one tiny, precious you. Arms spread wide in the sweet, cool grass, under a velvet panorama, you come face to face with the splendor of the universe for a few beautiful minutes. But it cannot last. All shows must end. The moon glides on, the sun emerges, reclaiming her daytime throne. As light creeps back to earth, we look around at one another. Once strangers, now we are friends, people who, together, glimpsed the extraordinary. Speechless, we smile, we hug and high-five, we remember all we saw for a few beautiful minutes.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are. Return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
The reading today is taken from Herodotus, who lived approximately 485 to 420 before the Common Era. It probably refers to the total solar eclipse of May 28th, 585 before the Common Era in Asia Minor. There was war between the Lydians and the Medes, 5 years. They were still warring with equal success when it chanced at an encounter which happened in the 6th year that during the battle, the day turned to night. Thales of Miletus had foretold this loss of daylight to the Ionians, fixing it within the year in which the change did indeed happen. So when the Lydians and the Medes saw the day turn to night, they ceased fighting. And both were more zealous to make peace.
All that you touch and all that you see, all that you taste, all that you feel, and all that you love, and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you save, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and everyone you meet, and all that you slight, and everyone you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is into, but the sun is eclipsed by the moon. Okay, now for real. All that you touch, and all that you see, all that you taste, all you feel, and all that you love, and all that you hate, all you distrust, all you say, and all that you give, and all that you deal, and all that you buy, beg, borrow, or steal, and all you create, and all you destroy, and all that you do, and all that you say, and all that you eat, and everyone you meet, and all that you slight, and everyone you fight, and all that is now, and all that is gone, and all that's to come, and everything under the sun is into, but the sun is eclipsed
He warned me. Once you've seen one, he said, you're going to be chasing eclipses too for the rest of your life. That was astronomer Bob Noya in 2016 at the Astronomical Society of Harrisburg. Some students and I were planning an epic field trip to Oregon to see the 2017 total eclipse. And the eclipse was a great draw. It was kind of a perfect once-in-a-lifetime event to serve as the centerpiece of the trip's learning feast. But I have to admit, I was mostly looking forward to other things. Being present when the kids saw the crystalline desert sky at night, watching their faces when they first saw Crater Lake's deep blue water, stretching to hold hands around a redwood tree, helping kids dig for real fossils in real cliffs. I didn't really believe the eclipse would be all that special. I wasn't expecting a deeply emotional, spiritual experience. There are solar eclipses and there are lunar eclipses. Lunar eclipses are cool enough. That's when the moon is in the shadow of the earth. But on April 8th, just a few weeks from today, there will be a total solar eclipse when a small part of the earth is in the shadow of the moon. And that's a different thing altogether from a lunar eclipse. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. It seems like we should have a lunar eclipse every time the moon is full, right? And a solar eclipse when it's new. But the moon's orbit around Earth is tilted relative to the sun, relative to the Earth's orbit around the sun. So I don't know if you can see on the screen. Are we? Yes. There's a thin blue line that goes from the sun to the Earth. That's called the ecliptic. But you can see because of the tilt of the Earth's, the moon's orbit, the shadows miss much of the time. It's hard to explain this in 2 dimensions. So pretend that my head is the sun, right? And we're going to take the tilt of the moon's orbit and we're going to fast forward 3 months. So now your head is the Earth, mine is the sun, and the moon is going around your head like this. And you can see that here and here, sometimes it's directly between the Earth and the sun. I think I may have missed a slide. There we go. But when they're in that configuration, there can be eclipses, but only if the moon is at that precise intersection at exactly the right time, directly on the line between them. Here's a video of a NASA video of the moon's shadow crossing South America in 2020. And had you been there in that part of South America, you would have seen a total solar eclipse. I'm going to let it run twice so you can really see it. So first, the Earth is turning into the daytime, and then you see the shadow. So I went to Oregon with my students for a total solar eclipse. And here it is 7 years later, and I still don't know how to describe it. But I'm going to try one more time. There was a feeling of anticipation as the moon first made contact with the sun's disk and then slowly began devouring it. It was slow, but it was fun to watch. In the dappled shade of trees were hundreds of crescent suns, the spaces between the leaves acting like living pinholes. We also brought a sheet of aluminum to demonstrate that same effect, and colanders worked great too. Gradually, the light around us dimmed, and the whole world began to look thin, kind of papery, two-dimensional. It was almost like the opposite of an M.C. Escher drawing. Instead of a flat drawing appearing to have some depth, here was the real world's fullness appearing to flatten in a kind of unnerving way. And then it was dark. Not dark like midnight. The horizon still looked like early dawn, but not just in the east, in every direction all around us. Stars twinkled clearly overhead, and Mars and Venus were visible near the ghostly hole where the sun had been just a little while before. We could see Bailey's beads, these colorful dots of light around the rim, where the mountains and craters of the moon define its silhouette. Is there a way for me to see what they're seeing up here? That would be great, then I don't have to do this. I think I'm several slides. Here they are, Bailey's beads. As soon as we were in totality, a handful of panicked birds flew silently across the campground where we were staying. And the literal star of the show revealed these angel wings of wispy gray streaming out from the ominous black disk where the sun should have been and was just moments before. We remembered that during totality, we can safely take off our eclipse glasses and watch with our bare eyes. So we did that, and I became intensely aware that that misty light I was seeing from the sun's corona traced this laser straight line of connection from my eye up through the atmosphere, just skimming the edge of the moon and then all the way out to the sun, in a way drawing me into their primordial dance, a dance that marries movement with stillness, light with shadow, and connects descendants with ancestors. But these weren't thoughts in my head. I kind of felt all of that all at once. It was overwhelming. It was breathtaking, beautiful. And then it was over. 2 minutes is a painfully short time. Far too soon, a sliver of sunlight ushered me back to Earth, to daytime in the Oregon desert. I exhaled and my breath caught. It became a sob of joy and awe. Awe. Awe is a word that used to mean something like stop you in your tracks, see the face of God, jaw-dropping, eye-popping, breathtaking, earth-shatteringly too wonderful to describe. That describes a total eclipse of the sun. It is awesome in the original sense of that word. Why? What is so special about seeing the moon block the sun? I don't really know. I can't explain it. I have 3 thoughts about it, though. First, an eclipse shakes up our worldview. The sun rises, it crosses the sky, and it sets every day. It just does. And we know that. We depend on it. We presume it. And then one day, weirdly, frighteningly, it just goes dark for a while. You know, our ancestors who thought eclipses were foreboding portents of doom, they weren't just being foolish. The experience of totality is wildly unsettling, even when we know exactly what's happening and why, and we know for sure that everything's going to be all right. My second thought about this is that an eclipse connects us in an intimate, visceral way with the heavens. This is the essence of my work in science and spirituality, except that a book or a sermon, a lecture, all of that has to get you there by way of the intellect, words, describing what science has found, teasing out the aspects that invoke awe, and then striving to forge some visceral connection with them. And then maybe experiencing the spirituality of knowing that you're part of it all. An eclipse is a direct, immersive experience. It's a laser shot from the heavens straight to your soul until you're left gasping for breath and begging for more. It's unsettling and joyous both, somehow. My third thought is that there's a lot of new research about this experience we call awe. Events like eclipses, with the combination of being unfamiliar and large scale, can invoke what awe researchers refer to as the small prosocial self. Awe eclipses our egos, and it takes us into a state of being where we feel the deep humility of our smallness, combined with a sense of interbeing with all existence. We also become highly prone to feeling connected with others nearby and to generosity. So awe makes us better people. A total solar eclipse is an embodied experience of the interdependent web of existence, our 7th principle. Under the proposed Article 2 of the new proposed UUA bylaws, interdependence is one of the 6 expressions of love. And eclipses are also deeply transformative, not only for the individuals who experience them, but historically they have been too, like in the reading that Craig made. I mean, this takes us back to thousands of years before now. The feelings that eclipses evoke have sparked religiously creative responses in people since the dawn of human language. So, in Chinese legends, the sun is swallowed by a dragon. Of course, it's a dragon, right? And to scare the dragon into spitting the sun back out, they would make a lot of noise. They'd bang on pots and pans and that sort of thing. And of course, it always worked, right? Actually, what we know about eclipses comes from, a lot of what we know comes from meticulous Chinese records kept going back 4,000 years. In India, they say a demon named Rahu disguised himself and slipped into a banquet of the gods. And Vishnu caught him and cut off his head, just as Rahu had eaten but not yet swallowed some of the food of immortality. So they say an eclipse is Rahu's immortal head forever chasing the sun and sometimes catching and eating it. But of course, because Rahu has no neck, the sun reappears when he swallows it. Some West African peoples believe that when humans let their anger and fighting get out of hand, the sun and the moon begin to fight too, and that causes eclipses. And in that culture, the job of humans is to teach peace to the sun and the moon by ending their own human conflicts, reconciling with old enemies, and making amends. That's my favorite. Eclipses are fertile ground for symbolic interpretation, even for us in our culture and time. Whatever you believe about astrology, the moon's physical influence on us through tidal forces and the weird correlation with menstrual cycles and baby turtle hatchlings, it's profound, the moon's influence on us. It's a powerful force here on Earth. And the moon figures large in art and literature for a reason, because it taps into primordial archetypes in all cultures, with symbology related to dark, to night, secrecy, cycles, femininity, time and eternity, companionship, mystery, and shadows, the shadow side of life. Well, during a total solar eclipse, you find yourself literally in the shadow of the moon, symbolically in the shadow of the shadow. Solar eclipses only happen during the new phase of the moon, which pagans associate with new beginnings, rebirth, and opportunities for being courageous. Metaphorically, then, an eclipse is the joining of the masculine and the feminine, or, if you wish, the feminine covering the masculine. Speaking of masculine and feminine, that trip in 2017 put all of that symbology into a blender for my marriage. Anne and I had both been excited about being in the path of totality long before the eclipse was due to happen. But Anne's school year started earlier than mine, so the timing was close. The eclipse was on August, I think, 21st. We thought we would go south together to see the eclipse in North Carolina and then hightail it back for her first day at work. But then my students got excited about the eclipse and began planning and fundraising for a trip, and lots of constraints and considerations came into play, including the choice of the Oregon desert. Anne pushed back, not wanting a school trip to jeopardize our plans, to eclipse our plans as a couple. So I invited her to come along as another adult chaperone, but the timing simply didn't work. And before I knew it, I was deep into the planning of the school trip, too deep to back out. In the end, the school's eclipse trip eclipsed our plans to see the eclipse together. And funny as that sounds, Anne was pretty disappointed. Still, she participated as fully as she could. She walked around the streets of Harrisburg, loaning people her eclipse glasses so they could see the crescent sun. She pointed out the crescent suns projected on the ground by trees. And it was clear she had fun with this, excuse me, but it wasn't the same, and we weren't together as a couple. Okay, I admit, a geeky couple, but romantic too sometimes. Suffice it to say that this year, this time, we will be together for the eclipse. Now, many people have pointed out how peculiar it is that the distances to the moon and sun are precisely the same ratio as their diameters, so that the relatively tiny moon is just about exactly the same size in the sky as the unimaginably colossal sun, right? We know they're different sizes, but the distances come in too. Just right to perfectly cover it, exactly revealing the sun's corona, no more and no less. And in 2017, I thought that was a pretty amazing coincidence. But then this past October's annular eclipse reminded me that the moon's distance from the Earth varies. And when it's at a farther point in its orbit, it looks smaller. And so it only covers the middle of the sun, leaving a bright ring, often called a ring of fire eclipse. Still, the perfect geometry is part of the appeal of a total solar eclipse. It adds some magic to the experience. A note about safety. You need eclipse glasses if you want to look directly at the sun. And I have some you can buy after the service today if you'd like. If you get them elsewhere, make sure that they are ISO certified safe. There are a lot of fakes for sale online. A lot of places are running out of stock, so there's incentive for them to sell fakes. Be especially careful with children that day, because as the eclipse happens, even here in York, the sun is going to dim enough so that it won't be painful to look at, but it can still damage your eyesight. It's also safe to use pinhole methods as shown here. And I can show you more about that after if you'd like. In 2017, there was a bit of a ruckus on the far side of the campground where we were staying. Someone had looked at the sun with their binoculars, wearing eclipse glasses on her face. The eclipse glasses burst into flame on her face while she was wearing them, and she spent the eclipse in the ER. You have to cover the front lenses of any binocular or telescope that you're using before it goes through the instrument. During the brief minutes of totality, if you're in the path of totality, you can safely remove your eclipse glasses because the sun is completely blocked by the moon, including the harmful ultraviolet rays. Which reminds me, don't forget sunscreen on the rest of your skin, especially your face, because you're going to be facing straight at the sun much of that afternoon. Total solar eclipses are rare. When they happen, the moon's shadow traces a narrow path across the surface of the Earth. The last time the path of totality passed over York was July 29 in 1478. The next time it passes over this spot will be in the year 2200, 176 years from now. And whoever's here, they're only going to get 12 seconds of totality in 2200. And on April 8th, just 5 weeks from now, the path of totality will come within a few hours' drive of here. If you're in that path, you experience totality. If you're not, you don't. Don't miss it. Make arrangements today, this afternoon. You may already be too late for hotel and motel reservations. So get on this if you'd like to go. There will be other total eclipses in the next few years in places like Greenland and Siberia and Australia, the middle of the Pacific Ocean, places that are a whole lot less convenient than Cleveland, Erie, or Buffalo, right? Your next chance to see a total eclipse of the sun in the contiguous 48 states is in 20 years, and that one is mostly in Canada with the moon's shadow just grazing one little corner of Montana. So a lot farther than Erie. In your planning, what's that? I think this is where I want to be. In your planning, don't expect to drive very far on April 8th if you're going towards the path of totality. The roads near that path are just going to be totally jammed. So travel the day before and the day after. Remember, though, if it is cloudy, we might see nothing. It's a gamble, but it's worth taking. It's a gamble worth making. Being in the path of totality for a total solar eclipse was one of the most deeply spiritual experiences of my life. I wish I could share it with you directly, but I can't. You just have to get there yourself somehow. This is truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to participate in one of the most engaging and connective astronomical dramas known to humanity. He warned me, and now I'm warning you. You're going to want to do it again. If you simply cannot travel to see the total eclipse on the 8th, you can still see a partial one, a really good partial one from here in York. Here, the sun will be more than 90% covered. I think it's about 92.5% covered. So daylight is going to dim noticeably. If you have eclipse glasses or a pinhole camera, you can watch that happening. It'll be pretty cool. So free up the afternoon of April 8th on your calendar. And if it's clear, get outside to watch the sun get eaten by a dragon or a demon, or better yet, to watch the sun and the moon make peace. May we take, I'm way behind. Okay, this is where we'll end. May we take all opportunities ourselves to watch the sun and moon make peace and to make peace amongst one another. May it be so. And now, if you will rise in body or spirit and join us in singing one of my favorites, maybe yours too, Peter Mayer's Blue Boat Home.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we leave this place and return to our earthbound routines on our blue boat home, let our eyes be drawn ever upward, knowing that always, always we dance to the music of the spheres, from our place on a sphere, dancing in the shadow and the light. Let our living encompass both, eclipsed or bright, and when invitations come our way to be reminded of our place in the dance, let us take them with reverence and with joy. And so we go in peace and return in love.
Go